It was indeed a traffic accident. Worse yet, it involved injuries. A large sedan stopped on the road. And there were 3 people lying on the road. Blood quickly spread across the pavement. I immediately rushed to the injured. "Can you hear me?" I called out. First, I checked their level of consciousness, and then, "My name is David, I'm 35 years old. I've been a nurse for 14 years. Today, I start working at a private nursing home by the sea. Since my student days, I've wanted to work in a facility for the elderly or a convalescent hospital. I felt that my calling in nursing was more aligned with long-term care, where I could spend time with each patient, rather than the acute care setting where patients come and go quickly. However, my nursing school preferred placements at its related hospitals. So I reluctantly took a job at the public hospital affiliated with the school. I requested to be assigned to a ward with many elderly patients, but that wish was not granted. I struggled in a tough environment for 5 years. But by my 5th year, I felt I had worked hard enough and deserved to pursue the type of nursing I wanted to do, so I decided to change jobs. I found a private hospital group that also ran many convalescent hospitals and nursing homes. During the interview, I confidently expressed my interest. "I applied to this job because I believe I can engage in long-term care nursing at your institution. I'm single, so I'm willing to relocate anywhere. Thank you for considering me." The nursing director, Emma, smiled and said, "I've always admired long-term care nursing, even though I've spent my career in acute care. We have many convalescent hospitals and facilities. So we can find a place that suits you." Naturally, I couldn't help but have high expectations. Later, I received a call that I was hired. However, I was told I would be placed in a similar department to my previous job. A staff member took sudden maternity leave and were short-handed. "Having someone with your experience would be incredibly helpful. Could you please stay for just 6 months?" Emma herself pleaded, and I couldn't say no. But what was supposed to be a 6-month stint dragged on to 9 years. When I turned 35, I realized I couldn't continue like this. I told Emma that I would either transfer or quit, and that's how I ended up at this nursing home. I moved into an apartment near the nursing home. The hospital covered the full rent as a subsidy. I bought an electric bicycle. In this area, there are few trains or buses, so most residents own cars. I have a driver's license, but I'm not confident driving since I'm essentially an inexperienced driver. Besides, maintaining a car is expensive. I figured the bicycle would suffice. I could do my shopping within cycling distance. On my first day, I rode my brand new bicycle to work. I took a deep breath of the morning air. The rich scent of the sea and the crisp, clear air. It might be the first time I've ever breathed air this fresh. The nursing home was on a hill. With an electric bike, the hill was no problem. The facility had a cute look with a red roof and ivory walls. I entered and greeted the receptionist. "Good morning. I'm David, starting as a nurse today." Soon, the director, Alexander, came down to meet me. He was an elderly man in a polo shirt, with a gentle demeanor. After exchanging greetings, he promptly led me to the nurse's station. The nurse's station was more spacious than I had imagined. As I looked at the files lined up on the shelf with numbers on them, I began to feel a sense of dread. Could these be paper medical records? Being part of the digital generation and having poor handwriting, I lacked confidence in filling out paper medical records. I silently prayed that they had implemented electronic medical records. Alexander introduced me to the staff. "This is David. It's his first time working in a facility like this, so he may be unfamiliar with some things, but he's determined to do his best. Please help him out." As a male nurse in a predominantly female workplace, it's crucial to read the room and have a gentle demeanor. It's important to take a step back when dealing with female colleagues. You shouldn't assert yourself too strongly. By always supporting the female staff and being reliable when needed, you can become the ideal male nurse. Those who can do this are well liked at work and, frankly, tend to be popular. There are even times when nurses compete for their attention. Unfortunately, I've never been in such a situation, but aside from Alexander, everyone here is female. I reminded myself to act in a way that wouldn't upset anyone. "I'm Jessica, a nurse. We'll be working the day shift together today. Nice to meet you. She had a gentle smile and seemed a bit older than me. I noticed a ring on her left ring finger. I later learned that she was a housewife with 2 children. Jessica showed me around the home and explained the tasks. The caregivers mainly handle the care of the residents. This allows us to focus on nursing duties. What kind of nursing duties do we have? I asked. Morning vital checks, suctioning for those with respiratory issues, treating bed sores, feeding those with gastrostomy tubes at lunchtime. And of course, nursing records. That last one can be quite challenging. Are the nursing records on paper? I asked, hoping for a negative answer. But yes, but it's just for things like vitals, food intake, and bowel movements. You don't need to worry about writing detailed SOAP notes. SOAP is a format for nursing records that documents the patient's condition, the nurse's judgment, and actions taken. If I had to write SOAP notes on paper for everyone, it would be tough, so I was relieved. We don't do catheter changes, IVs, or injections here. The clinic next door handles those. We do handle blood draws, though. Are you comfortable with that, David? Blood draws? I don't have any issues with that. Jessica looked relieved. That's good to hear. A lot of the nurses who come here lack confidence in their skills. So we ask the doctors not to order blood draws when they're on duty. The doctors accommodate the nurses? That was unthinkable at my previous job. There, we were expected to learn to do everything and were often yelled at. I remembered those days. Okay, let's go check the vitals. Today you'll be in charge of this room. I took the blood pressure monitor and other vital equipment and headed to the designated room. On the way, an older woman called out to me. Are you a nurse? The enteral feeding is done, so could you please take care of it? She was quite elderly, with deep wrinkles covering her face. From her attire, I assumed she was a caregiver. Enteral feeding? This is my first day, so I'm not familiar with the procedures yet. Just remove the gastrostomy tube, right? You're a nurse, you can do it, can't you? We can't change the diapers with it in place. Please come. Hurry. I'm the type who follows orders when pressed. But when I faced the male resident, I froze. A tube was connected to his abdomen, delivering nutrition. Please, hurry and remove it. I realized I had never removed a gastrostomy tube before. Is it okay to just remove it like this? Do I need to do anything after removing it? Looking around the bed, I noticed a syringe filled with clear liquid. I assumed it was for flushing the tube. But I wasn't confident enough to proceed. Ugh, you're useless. The caregiver snapped before storming out. A short while later, she returned with Jessica. I'm sorry. I've never done this before, I admitted. What? Jessica was visibly shocked. But she kindly showed me how to disconnect the enteral feeding. The procedure was as I had guessed, but it was reassuring to have clear instructions. Next time, I would be able to do it without any issues. I'm sorry. I apologized to the caregiver for my inexperience. Well, we get all kinds of nurses here. Do your best. She said it with an exasperated tone. For a typical nurse, handling enteral feeding is basic. Being unable to do it made me feel looked down on. I realized I should have studied more before coming here. I had underestimated the job because it was a nursing home, and now I felt like I wanted to disappear. Jessica spent the rest of the day teaching me the ropes. She was very thorough in her explanations. Take your time. In a month, you'll be able to do everything, she reassured me. She also told me about the caregiver, Emily. Emily is the most experienced here. Even Alexander respects her. She can be difficult and says harsh things to newcomers. But she's not a bad person at heart. Don't let it bother you, and keep doing your best. I chuckled at the thought of Emily being the stereotypical difficult senior. I'll have to be careful around her. In the afternoon, I worked on the paper medical records. Although I was told not to worry too much about detailed entries, I noticed that past records were very thorough. The records included entries like, noticed photos of her grandchildren and mentioned them, which made her smile and listen to her feelings when she seemed lonely. She shared many stories from her youth and seemed satisfied, finishing all her meal afterward. These detailed notes reflected a compassionate approach to care and conveyed a warmth unique to handwritten records, making me smile as I read them. I wanted to get used to the job quickly so I could provide that kind of care. Hello. I was engrossed in the records when a voice called out from the other side of the nurse's station. A young woman in a white coat, with a stethoscope around her neck, clearly a doctor, greeted us. "Hello, Dr. Smith," Jessica said happily as she approached the doctor. Dr. Smith worked at the clinic next to the home and visited once a week. She was about 5.1 feet tall. She had kind, large eyes and a very cute face. She looked quite young, probably in her 20s. It was unusual for such a young doctor to work at a clinic, so there might be a reason behind it. Dr. Smith visits the nursing home once a week for house calls. She's very popular because she's so cute and kind, Jessica explained. I could see why, even I was becoming a fan. I finished my shift on time that day. One of the perks of this job was the lack of overtime. I decided to have dinner out. There was a diner along the coast that had caught my eye. It closed at 7 p.m., so I hurriedly pedaled my bike towards it. When I entered, I saw Dr. Smith inside. But she wasn't alone. She was sitting with a little girl. "Good evening." I greeted her, unsure if she would remember me since we had just met and barely spoken. Dr. Smith's face lit up immediately. "You're the nurse from the home, right?" "David." I was surprised she remembered my name. "Yes, that's right." "Nice to see you again, Dr. Smith." "Nice to see you too," she replied, then introduced the little girl next to her. "This is my daughter, Sarah. She's 6 years old." "Good evening," Sarah said. She looked just like her mother, very cute. Ah, so she's married. And to think she already has such a big daughter, it was a bit of a shock. "Will you be joining this table?" The waitress approached and asked me. I was about to say no, but Dr. Smith spoke up. "Would you like to join us for dinner?" she offered. Surprised, I looked at Dr. Smith and her daughter, both smiling at me. Would her husband be okay with this? I wondered, but I also wanted to talk to Dr. Smith more. I'd be happy to. I agreed to share the table. Dr. Smith ordered a grilled fish set meal, and Sarah ordered an omelet. I also opted for the grilled fish set meal. "You look so young, I didn't expect you to have a child," I said honestly. Dr. Smith gave a wry smile. "I get that a lot. I'm actually 32. I had Sarah during my residency." 32. That's still quite young for a doctor. And having a baby during residency must have been incredibly challenging. I had to take maternity leave when I should have been building my foundation as a doctor. Even after I returned, balancing work and childcare was impossible, she explained. I wondered if her husband had been supportive. When I asked, she spoke with a hint of bitterness. My husband at the time was also a doctor. He didn't help with childcare at all. Whenever Sarah had a fever and the daycare called, I was the one who had to go get her. At the college hospital, people looked down on me. Then my husband had an affair. So I divorced him and came back to my hometown. I had suspected there was a story behind her situation, but I didn't expect it to be so tough. In the nursing world, which is predominantly female, there are systems in place to help balance work and childcare. But the medical field is still largely male-dominated. It might be even harder for women to work while raising children. That's why I can't do much as a doctor. But when I was asked to work at this clinic, I was told I only needed to prescribe medication and conduct checkups. If there was anything too difficult, I could refer the patient to a nearby large hospital. I thought I could manage that, so I decided to work at the clinic. Dr. Smith spoke about the clinic with a happy expression. Becoming a doctor is incredibly hard. It takes a lot of intelligence, money, time, and effort. After all the hard work she put into earning her medical degree, it's only natural to want to utilize it by working diligently at a college hospital or similar institution. But Dr. Smith chose to work at a small clinic by the sea while raising her child. She must be a family-oriented, down-to-earth person, I thought, feeling a warmth in my chest. There's something about being with Dr. Smith that makes me feel incredibly happy. Maybe it's her appearance, her charm, or her kind personality that attracts me. It's been a long time since I felt this way around a woman. At that moment, I imagined myself walking along the seaside with Dr. Smith and Sarah. Dad. Let's go over there next. Hey, Sarah, he's not your dad. But he will be soon, right? Calm down. Stop daydreaming. She's a doctor. Her previous husband was a doctor too, so there's no way she'd be interested in me. Sorry for the wait. The waitress placed our food in front of us. Looks delicious. Sarah's face lit up at the sight of her steaming omelet. I almost let out a cheer myself. Despite being a grilled fish set meal for less than $10, it was incredibly luxurious. Grilled mackerel, simmered vegetables, seafood soup, and even a small dessert. It's amazing. The fish is so fresh and delicious, I prefer eating here over cooking at home. I could easily become a regular here. The food was so good that I was almost ending up getting a second meal. A month had passed since I transferred to the home. I had become quite accustomed to the job. I'll connect James' nutrition line. I've already treated Michael's bedsores. John's oxygen saturation was low, so I performed suction. It's now at 98%. As I became more efficient, the staff's perception of me changed. One day, Emily gestured for me to follow her. She led me to the caregiver's break room. A gift from one of the residents. This is for you. It was a small chestnut cookie. Thank you. I was happy to feel recognized as part of the team. As I became more efficient at my job, I naturally found myself with more time. I made an effort to communicate with the residents. I'm not great at just chatting, so I would engage in conversations while doing things like nail clipping or foot baths. The home had a sunroom. Sitting there, clipping nails and chatting with residents, brought a strange sense of peace. My nail trimming skills were well received, and many residents began requesting, "Could you cut my nails?" Life at the home felt timeless. But then, an incident occurred. One day, while I was leisurely clipping nails, I heard the screech of brakes followed by a loud crash of shattering glass. Ah! A woman's scream. It must be an accident. I stood up. Sorry, I need to go check on that. I apologized to the resident and rushed out of the facility. It was indeed a traffic accident. And worst of all, it involved pedestrians. A large sedan stopped on the road. 3 people were lying on the road. Blood quickly spreading on the pavement. What should we do? I noticed Emily was standing next to me. But she was pale and trembling. Let's check on the injured first. I immediately ran to the injured people. I went to the one with the most bleeding first. She was a woman in her 40s. There was bleeding from her thigh, possibly from an artery. I quickly applied pressure to the suspected bleeding area with my palm. Fortunately, I was still wearing gloves from the nail clipping. In situations like this, I could touch the blood without hesitation. "Can you hear me?" I called out, and she barely opened her eyes and nodded slightly. "Oh, she's alive!" Emily exclaimed happily. "Emily, call an ambulance and get the other staff. Tell everyone to wear gloves." "Got it." Emily's face turned serious as she ran back to the home. It was then. This is. I turned around and saw Dr. Smith. She looked even paler than Emily. Dr. Smith. She's at consciousness level 2. The only visible external injury is to her thigh, but it may be arterial bleeding. She might be drifting in and out due to blood loss. I reported the patient's condition to Dr. Smith. "I'm sorry. I don't know what to do in situations like this." Of course. I bit my lip. In medical emergencies, doctors are the primary responders. Nurses can only assist. But only until the ambulance arrives. Dr. Smith and I will have to manage until then. Dr. Smith, you have gloves and a face shield, right? Could you take over applying pressure? All right. I carefully switched places with Dr. Smith. The transition went smoothly. There were still 2 more injured people. One was completely motionless, and the other was a young woman clutching her abdomen and crying, "It hurts." I ran to the crying woman. "My stomach hurts. It hurts so much." There were no visible external injuries, but there might be internal damage. I quickly took her wrist to check her pulse. It was strong. Her consciousness was clear, and there was nothing more I could do at the moment. "An ambulance is on its way. Hang in there a little longer." Encouraging her loudly, she nodded in response. "Okay." I then ran to the motionless person. A man in his 40s. He was bleeding from the head, unconscious, and not breathing. His heart had stopped. I immediately started chest compressions. The key to saving a life is how quickly and continuously chest compressions, or CPR, are performed. But I wouldn't be able to sustain it alone for long. When performing chest compressions, it's standard to switch in teams. With 3 people, we could keep going for an hour. "David." I called the ambulance and brought everyone. "Also, I have gauze and towels." It was Emily. How reliable she is, bringing the necessary items for stopping the bleeding. "Thank you." "Emily, can you switch with Dr. Smith for the bleeding control?" "Yes." Emily immediately went to Dr. Smith. "Can someone bring an ambu bag and an oxygen tank?" I asked the caregivers who had come. However, they all looked confused. "I understand the oxygen tank, but what's an ambu bag?" "It's the thing that pumps air like a pump. It's on the top right shelf in the nurse's station." "Oh. That thing." One of the caregivers clapped his hands and went back to the home. "David, I'll take over chest compressions." It was a young male caregiver. "Can you do it?" "I've done it during training." I was relieved. My arms were about to give out. I switched with the caregiver. "David, how's it going over there?" It was Dr. Smith. "This one is in cardiac arrest. There's a head injury." "Really? What should I do?" I knew Dr. Smith couldn't handle intubation. So, I thought about having her establish an IV line and administer adrenaline. Adrenaline is used during cardiac arrest. "Dr. Smith, please go back to the clinic and bring as much IV fluid and adrenaline as you can find, along with normal saline, IV sets, and syringes." "Got it." Soon, Dr. Smith returned with a basket full of supplies. There was only 1 vial of adrenaline. "That's enough." I opened the adrenaline and drew it into a syringe. Of course, I also mixed it with normal saline. "Dr. Smith, can you start an IV line?" "Yes. But I can't see a vein." Seeing she couldn't manage, I took over. Starting an IV in an emergency has its tricks. Usually, the vein on the inside of the hand is used, but in emergencies, the vein on the outside of the wrist is preferred. It's right above the bone, so the vein is easier to find. However, it's thin, so it requires skill. Being experienced, I quickly inserted the needle. "Doctor, please administer the adrenaline." "Who are you?" Dr. Smith looked up at me with a puzzled expression. I was a nurse from the emergency medical center. I worked at a public hospital for 5 years right after graduation. Then, I spent 9 years at a private hospital. I wanted to work on a ward. However, due to my good grades in nursing school and the perception that men have more physical strength, I was assigned to the emergency center. An ambulance. Someone with good hearing must be around. A bit later, I also started to hear the siren of the ambulance. I looked around. One person with abdominal pain had a caregiver by their side, speaking to them. They were conscious and seemed calm. Emily was desperately continuing to stop the bleeding for the person with the thigh injury. The person in cardiac arrest was receiving chest compressions alternately from the caregivers, and air was being pumped in with the ambu bag. I had no idea what would happen to these people. But I felt that we had done what we could. Just a little more. "Let's hang in there." I encouraged everyone. Yes. A strong response came back. Dr. Smith and I decided to ride in the ambulance. Amazingly, the person in cardiac arrest started to regain a heartbeat and breathing inside the ambulance. They were still in critical condition, but at least they hadn't died on the spot. I prayed that they would survive at the hospital. Excellent response. Were you in emergency care? Dr. Brown, the head of emergency at the receiving hospital, praised me. Actually, I mentioned the name of my previous hospital. That's one of the top hospitals in the country in terms of patient volume. You're truly a wonderful nurse. How about joining our hospital? I was scouted. Of course, I politely declined. They gave me a ride back to the facility in the ambulance. Thank you, Dr. Smith. I cheerfully expressed my gratitude. You were an amazing emergency nurse. Dr. Smith said sadly. No, not really. But she looked down, and the atmosphere became awkward. The next day, I received a call from Emma, the head nurse at the main hospital. David, I heard about your performance. You really are suited for emergency care. Would you consider coming back? Everyone's waiting for you. Indeed, the emergency field might suit me, where every second counts. And I use both my mind and body to the fullest to provide life-saving measures. That environment gave me a strong sense of being alive, like an adrenaline rush. I am suited for emergency care. And with 14 years of experience, I am skilled. Perhaps I should be where I am needed. But I couldn't answer right away, so I said, let me think about it, and hung up. The next day arrived without a conclusion. It was a workday at the nursing home. A peaceful and calm place, as if nothing had happened. I felt healed, truly. At that moment, Emily beckoned me over. David, come here. Was it for patient care? I followed her and was led to the dining hall. There, residents had gathered, along with Alexander, caregivers, Jessica who was supposed to be off, and even Dr. Smith. As I stood there in a daze, Emily brought in a big cake. David, happy birthday. Happy 36th. Thank you for everything. I never expected to have my birthday celebrated. The unexpected surprise brought tears to my eyes. You were so cool the other day. It was my first time seeing something like that, and it made my heart race. Emily blushed like a schoolgirl. Thanks to you, David, the awareness among caregivers and nurses has increased. We're even planning a training session on emergency care, said Alexander. Jessica also spoke to me. I knew from the start that you weren't just anyone, David. Who was the one saying this guy can't even remove a PEG tube, he's dangerous, the loudest? Emily teased Jessica, who responded by sticking out her tongue playfully. Then Dr. Smith spoke up. Happy birthday. All the people from the other day have recovered. It's all thanks to you, David. Truly, thank you. I shook my head. No, if you hadn't been there, Dr. Smith, who knows what would have happened. Thank you. Then, Dr. Smith spoke hesitantly. Are you going back to the emergency center? Thinking about my future as a nurse, salary, and other considerations made me a bit unsure, but my heart was already set. I knew where I wanted to be. After 14 years as a nurse, I finally found my place. I'll stay here. As soon as I said that, Dr. Smith smiled. It was a beautiful smile, like a flower blooming. I'm so happy. Let's continue working together. I firmly shook the hand Dr. Smith offered. Oh, how warm and soft it is. I wanted to keep holding it forever. Me too. To my surprise, Emily placed her hand over ours. Oh, me too. And me. One after another, the residents and staff joined in, almost crushing me under their hands. A year later, Dr. Smith and I had started dating after that day. Today, we were out clam digging with Sarah. Dad. Let's go over there next. Hey, Sarah. He's not dad yet, remember? Sarah had already grown very fond of me. It might be time to ask the question. Would you make me Sarah's dad? David. Yay. Seeing their happy faces, I felt confident about the proposal. But, it feels a bit like you're only in it for Sarah. Oops. That came out wrong. I quickly corrected myself. Would you be my partner, Dr. Smith? Together, let's support the healthcare of this town. Oh, David, you're so serious. Yes, I'd be happy to be your partner. Yay! He's really going to be my dad. After 15 years as a nurse, I had worked in places I didn't want to be, but I decided to pursue the work I truly wanted to do, and I found happiness. I plan to cherish it for the rest of my life.